Get started. Thank you for the opportunity being here today. I hope you guys had a good lunch, are enjoying yourself, and we'll get a chance to talk about startups. And I was asked to provide a testimonial. So today I'm not going to talk about the Aerospace cluster. I am not going to talk about anything but what we have done so far and the ride and how it's been. So as soon as the presentation is up. So we're going to talk about our story. And before we talk about our story, I want to make a caveat. We're a startup company. What is a startup company? Well, a startup is nothing more than a search engine. It's a search engine that you use to find a business model that is repeatable and scalable. So we're going to talk about how we started. And we started like many people, went to school in Puerto Rico, and when we graduated, we decided that we did not want to do anything but design the next space shuttle. Of course, it doesn't work that way, but once we graduated from engineering, we ended up finding a job at the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Virginia and moved there for a couple of years, moved around, and after some time, while working for Florida Turbine Technologies, decided to do what's shown here, swim against the current and come back to Puerto Rico. Well, it turns out that we always wanted to come back to Puerto Rico, but we wanted to work in the aerospace industry. So if it doesn't exist, well, you create it. And in essence, in 2005, we had the opportunity to start what was at the time the second aerospace engineering services company in Puerto Rico. And an engineering services company is a company that sells design or structural analysis or product definition services to another company. And in the aerospace industry and others, it's very common for large OEMs to subdivide the work and sell, or buy I should say, from providers like FTT, the services for the design. So at the time, we started it from zero, and I was talking to a gentleman earlier today about the experience when we got here. Well, in 2005, when we spoke to Pritco about starting an aerospace company, the first question that you had received was, how much are you going to invest in machinery and equipment? And I used to joke about, well, I'm going to buy a pen, a laptop, and that's about it. It's a different business than what Puerto Rico was used to in the past, where large buildings with large machinery and equipment were started. So it was a startup at the time within an existing company. And this is my unbiased opinion that today FTT is the highest tech aerospace engineering company. Of course, it's biased. It's a boutique engineering services company that today is doing structural analysis and design on the next generation gas turbines that will be in the planes that you will fly 10 years from now. And that's happening right now in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, which is pretty cool. When I graduated, that just didn't exist. So, but we're here to talk about startups. And the obvious question is, if you have a corner office, like I did, that's a picture of my office, in Mayagüez with an ocean view, and you're doing aerospace engineering work in Puerto Rico, making a very good salary, tú estás loco. How in the world are you going to leave that to go start something that may or may not work? Well, that question was asked many, many times by my family members, amongst others. What are you doing? You have what most people would consider is a dream job, and you're going to leave that to do what? Well, to start a machine shop. Yes, un ranchón with some machinery and equipment. In 2011, we started a business in Cabo Rojo with two other partners. Our first contract was an $80,000 contract for the Navy, and things were great. Well, not really. Because I learned my first lesson in business was this due diligence. It turns out that one of my two partners was that guy that's shown there behind the other two. It was a shark. And this business failed miserably. As soon as money started flowing, fangs came out, and it turned out an all-out war. So we had to shut down the business, spent a couple of nights in the hospital, almost had a heart attack, and we sat down and licked our wounds. Not really. We kept going. We tried again. So 2 years later, we tried, somehow, got a purchase order for from a company in Maryland to manufacture these precision components. Sure, we can do them. So we took a PO, and we went ahead and created a new machine shop. But this time, I don't want any partners. I learned my lesson. I'm going to do it myself. And bought equipment out of pocket, turn that equipment into, design basically all the components to turn it into a numerically controlled machine, and once again, failed miserably. Why? Didn't have the right equipment. So, learn from this mistake and set off to look for somebody who could help us make these parts. And in the process, we met a company in San Juan called AKM Manufacturing, which today is our key partner. And since 2015, we have been working together in many projects, and so far we're doing pretty good. We're making parts for the Army, we're making parts for the Navy, we have made parts for NASA, and we are actively pursuing multiple projects with the federal government. Why? Because Puerto Rico has a natural market, which is the US market, and we can participate in projects that companies that are not in the US territory can get into. So we are actively exploring and exploiting that alongside with our key partners. Some of the things that we've done, this is a cool example of what people can do when they work together. So a customer that is somewhere around here, there he is, calls with a problem, actually a panic. They need a part. The part is not available until 3 weeks, and it has to be flown in from somewhere else. And they had that drawing, which is not a complete drawing. So with a lot of ingenuity and the help of a makerspace in iOS, we were able to do reverse engineering of the component, 3D print a sample part. What you see there is a picture that I took while driving, don't tell anybody, while driving to Aguadilla of a 3D printed sample part. We ran to the airport, we presented the part to see if it fit, made a phone call to the shop in San Juan, and had it fabricated and delivered the next day. So within basically a 24-hour period, we were able to solve what was a really big problem for our customer here. What I didn't say earlier is that in one of the previous failures, which was in my garage, this one right here, an idea was born. My background is in structural mechanics, and while trying to make this part, we came up with an idea that we could develop a software that could help combine what's used today for computer-aided manufacturing, the state-of-the-art, and the cutting physics, that what actually happens to the parts while you're cutting them. And with the help of Grupo Guayacán, our company, D2M Solutions, participated in the I-Core process. And if anybody in the room here is thinking about starting a business somehow related to technology, I encourage you to participate in I-Core. What I-Core is a process that will force you to question what you're doing and validate to see if it's something that's worth pursuing. And it was a very humbling experience, but from that, we certainly were able to validate this research and development project that we have, that we're working on. And right now, we're actively pursuing an SBIR with the National Science Foundation to bring this into reality. So some of the things that we're doing right now. We've been busy since I-Core. We participated in many events, including the PRMA convention, which is the biggest event in Puerto Rico. So if you're interested in entering the Puerto Rico market, strongly encourage that you participate in that event. It's where the who's in the industry participate. And what about the future? Well, we've been working together for the last 2 or 3 years with AKM Manufacturing, and we're currently in advanced stage of negotiations to, in essence, combine what our startup is doing and what the existing company capabilities are to create a new aerospace and defense division. So we're actively working on that, and we're hoping that we can bring this to completion soon. So the testimonial part, lessons learned. Failure is just a source of inspiration. If you give up the first time you fail, might as well stay in your job and keep a steady paycheck. So don't be afraid to fail. Frustration, that's me, by the way, every day. Frustration is a necessary part of the process. Things will not work right the first time. And you will have to change what you're doing, but you need to get it done, okay? And last but not least, everybody thinks about an entrepreneur as this guy that floats in air and can get everything done. Well, an entrepreneur is not Superman. It's a guy that every day is pulling his hair out, but is wanting he's refusing to take no for an answer. He wants to get it done, so he keeps pushing forward. And last but not least, I guess the biggest lesson learned from what we've done so far is that the only thing that is certain is change. Seriously. If you're afraid of change, stay in your job. You will get your paycheck on the 30th or whenever you get paid. But you're more likely, when you get older, will want to think, what if I had tried this or that? Might as well try it, because something will change. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.